Hello everyone. My name is Neelkumar Bhimani, and I'll talk about what has happened in last couple of months, which is the global trade tensions which have escalated with major economies imposing tariffs, restricting exports, and reshaping supply chains. The United States and China, the world's two largest economies, are once again caught in a trade war. While geopolitical shifts like the European Union's carbon border tax and sanctions on Russia are disrupting global commerce, how does this impact India and how should we respond? Is the question right now. India, as the fifth largest economy, is deeply integrated into the global trade. The US China trade war, along with restrictions on semiconductor exports, tightening supply chains, and retaliatory tariffs, affects us in several ways. The first disruption is in exports. Indian exporters face increased competition as Chinese goods blocked by the US seek alternative markets like India. The EU's carbon border tax raises costs for India's steel and aluminum exports. Pharmaceuticals, a $50 billion industry, faces supply chain bottlenecks due to China's export restrictions on key raw materials. And then there are import vulnerabilities as well. India relies on China for electronics, machinery, and active pharmaceutical ingredients. Costs are rising due to restrictions in these important industry sectors. The US restrictions on semiconductor exports to China disrupt India's electronics and automotive sector. Another third factor, which is affecting us, which is disrupting our economy, would be the geopolitical realignment and the foreign direct investments. With global companies shifting production out of China, India has an opportunity, but must compete with Vietnam, Indonesia, and Mexico for these investments. In short, global trade disruptions pose both threats and opportunities for India's economy. Trade wars are not new. In 1991, India faced a foreign exchange crisis due to high import dependence, leading to economic liberalization. Since then, our export sector has grown significantly, particularly in IT and pharmaceuticals and textiles as well. During the 2018-19 US-China trade war, India saw a short-term boost as Chinese goods faced higher US tariffs. However, India failed to fully capitalize due to infrastructure gaps and regulatory hurdles. This time, we must respond strategically. So, how can India turn this crisis into an opportunity? I have listed four key measures that we might take. One is strengthening of domestic manufacturing. Expand production-linked incentive schemes in electronics, semiconductors, and renewables. Invest in ports, logistics, and special economic zones for companies to compete with China and Vietnam. The timeline for this would be 3 to 5 years to build these global scale factories. The second measure that I propose is to diversify trade partnership. Fast track free trade agreements with developed nations like of European Union, UK, and other countries like Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, Japan, and other countries, North American countries like Canada as well. Promote rupee-based trade settlements with global South nations to reduce dollar dependence. The timeline for this would be around 4 years because trade pacts do need time for negotiations and to materialize themselves. The third measure, very important one, is to develop critical supply chains, reduce reliance on China by incentivizing local production of semiconductors, the pharmaceutical APIs, and rare earth metals. Support Indian firms in these global chip making alliances and the strategic industries. The timeline for this would be a bit longer, which would be around 5 to 7 years to be completely self-reliant in these strategic industries. The fourth one, which is the most easiest way to achieve our aim, is to encourage services and digital exports. Now, this is possible due to the very capable Indian IT industry. We need to expand IT and fintech exports to counterbalance the goods trade deficits that we have. Strengthen India's role in global digital services through regulatory support. The timeline for this is around 2 to 3 years because we already have a good industrial base in the IT sector. While these measures offer a clear path forward, several obstacles remain. Bureaucratic red tape and complex tax laws continue to deter foreign and domestic investors alike, making it difficult to scale up manufacturing. India's high logistic costs, nearly 13 to 14% of GDP, compared to 8 to 9% in developed nations, reduce export competitiveness. Additionally, the rigid labor laws and frequent policy reversals create uncertainty for businesses. Trade agreements also face resistance due to concerns over market access and domestic industry protection. Finally, geopolitical uncertainties, including shifting alliances and global economic slowdowns, pose risk to long term policy execution. Overcoming these challenges will require policy streamlining, regulatory reforms, faster decision making, and most importantly, for Indian context, political will. The trade war may disrupt global markets, but it presents India with a chance to emerge stronger. By investing in manufacturing, technology, and trade diplomacy, we can turn challenges into opportunities. The world is realigning, and India must act now to secure its economic future. Thank you.